Omar's not inside. So. Jacob, can you make Rosemari and Gail need to be inside because that's he's welcoming.
Oh, they need to be inside?
Like, because he's giving a opening and then Gail too.
I saw the invitation in the front.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, right where he is.
Well, or
in the front.
just they need to know that they are needed soon in the theater.
And who needs the translation?
Tamara?
Martine. Martine.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
It's off now.
Yeah.
She just needs to turn it on.
Thank you.
Let's keep trying to get folks from outside to come in. We're going to start in really a couple of minutes.
At Miami International Airport demanded that the U.S. government end its blockade of imported oil into Cuba. The country has been practically cut off from food supplies, creating an energy crisis. CBS News Miami during looking at how the Cuban community is reacting to these sanctions.
Claudia Rodriguez says she has family down in Cuba and says they've been struggling to get basic goods ever since the U.S. blocked oil from being imported into the Caribbean island.
It would be very difficult for them now to have access to electricity and power and all the things they need to just live a normal day-to-day life.
That's why she helped organize a protest outside Miami International Airport, demanding the U.S. allow oil to come back into Cuba.
People can't access the basic necessities of life in Cuba because of the fact that they no longer have the means to transport anything in the island itself. They don't have the oil to do so.
This blockade has been going on for about the last month. This is on top of larger economic sanctions on Cuba dating back to the 1960s. Peter Simon helped organize the protest in the airport. He would prefer that all sanctions be lifted from Cuba.
I think it's not the business of the U.S. government to tell people in Cuba what to do.
The Trump administration has eased some sanctions this past week by allowing U.S. companies to sell oil to non-governmental entities in Cuba. President Trump has also hinted at conducting what he called a friendly takeover of Cuba. At MIA, Stephen Geary, CBS News, Miami.
This is the March of the Torches, and it's happening right here in Havana, Cuba. We're just away from the steps of the University of Havana. The students of the university are coming down with the torches lit up. This march was done for the first time in 1953. At that moment, it was the 100th anniversary of the birth of Cuban Rosemari, and in his honor, in honor of his ideals, those young Cubans had this demonstration for the first time. At that time, Cuba was in an uprising of revolutionary generation that just years later conquer and have a great victory in 1959 with the Cuban Revolution.
Are we all set up in the booth there to start our live stream?
Very important scenario in global context because the U.S. aggressions in the region, and particularly against Cuba, keep mounting up. And this
Okay, we're about to get started. We can pause this.
symbolizes this gorgeous.
Well, if there's any folks still outside, we'll try to bring them in, but we're about to get started. Hello, everybody. My name is Ike Nahem. I'm with the Cuba C, New York, New Jersey Coalition and the International U.S.-Cuba Normalization Conference, which are sponsoring, along with many dozens of organizations all across the U.S., Canada, and the hemisphere in this hybrid action conference. So welcome all sisters and brothers to the action conference for U.S.-Cuba normalization. We are now live streaming around the world. So let me start by welcoming our special guests that we're very honored and happy to have that are representing Cuba at the Commission on the Status of Women events at the United Nations, which is why we were able to get them into the United States for this. So we want to welcome our special guests from Cuba, from the delegation, Osmayda, Mabel, Alexis, Yamila, if you could all stand up. And our friends at the Cuban mission to the United Nations, the permanent ambassador, and permanence is also describes our friendship, comradeship, and solidarity with Cuba. So we welcome Ambassador Soberón, Deputy Ambassador Yuri Gala, and all of the sisters and brothers from the Cuban mission, and we have a couple of friends and staffers from the Embassy of Cuba in Washington, D.C., Brothers David and the other comrade from D.C. So welcome to all. We gather here in New York City at an ominous time of war and naked aggression in the Middle East, what they now call West Asia, and in our hemisphere, marked by the events of January 3rd, 2026, the subsequent U.S. oil, energy quarantine blockade of Cuba. President Diaz-Canel yesterday in his historic press conference announced that it has been 3 months since a drop of oil has been able to enter Cuba. Shame is right. And the February 28th U.S.-Israeli war on Iran and its still unfolding consequences. We know this is a time of deep stress and human suffering in our Cuban Caribbean neighbor that so many of us have grown to respect, admire, and love across many generations. In this centenary year of the birth of the towering Cuban revolutionary Fidel Castro, let us recall his powerful truth that the power of ideas is more powerful than all the weapons and the firepower of the imperialists and the oppressors. And that vigorously engaging in the battle of ideas is the key to advancing the fight for a better world, and it is also key to our decisive eventual victory in defeating the blockade. This action conference will not only educate and inform us about the realities of the criminal Yankee blockade, the economic war of asphyxiation. You will get all of that today and tonight at our rally and tomorrow at our organizers' meeting. But our primary purpose is to galvanize, boost, and promote united action to fight the blockade, to fight U.S. threats and interventionism in the Americas, and to defend Venezuelan sovereignty. Trump and Rubio are attempting a public lynching of Cuba, a public asphyxiation, and they have the delusion that the peoples and even governments of the world will stand by in apathy and indifference, if not open support. Well, I'm here to say, and I'm sure you all agree, this will not happen. As the biblical verse puts it, I don't usually quote the Bible, but this is a very good one. For they have sown the wind, and they shall reap the whirlwind. We will see in our plenaries and workshops today that in the fight back and resistance of the Cuban people, solidarity and love is beginning and is mounting in our hemisphere. Most importantly, decisively, Trump and Rubio seem to have forgotten or repressed in their consciousness, such as it is, that the Cuban working class and people will fight and resist by any means necessary. And out of that fight is bound to come new forms of resistance and struggle in this hemisphere. But we already know that right now, as we gather, people, children, women, and men in Cuba are dying because of the blockade, which pulverizes medical access, transportation, and the most basic needs of human survival and dignity. So, let us move forward today and out of this conference in unity of purpose. Let us show that we are capable and disciplined enough to live with, without suppressing, the contradictions of the inevitable political and even historical differences over other burning international and national questions, so we can strike together in a united front to defeat the blockade once and for all, so that we can win and end this criminal blockade. So now, let me give a few thank yous. First of all, I want to thank our dear sister Corina Mullen from the PSC CUNY Union. Corina we'll see her for later, who helped us get this beautiful space for the weekend, and that it's just been such a pleasure working with Corina and other folks. I want to thank our technical team, Allison Bodine and Trevor Hoover, who are up in the booth there, making sure that everything goes smoothly. I want to give a special thanks to all of the activists from the Cuba C, New York, New Jersey Coalition, starting with Aaron Feeling, Nahem, Jacob, Jason, T, Barb, Mark, Elizabeth, Bob, and others. Thank you so much that we really put together a good team and a division of labor. To the International U.S.-Cuba Normalization Conference Coalition and all the forces that united to endorse and sponsor this effort. To Diane, Julie, Renee, Cindy, and many others that I probably forgot. So now I want to get down to introducing our two co-chairs for this opening plenary, who are also both at the top of the thank you list. First, César Omar Sánchez, longtime Cuba C, New York, New Jersey Coalition activist, and a co-chair of the National Network on Cuba. As many of you know, César is a brilliant graphic designer whose work has given the public political face of our movement such attractive appeal and resonance. César is a selfless fighter and a dear friend. Tamara Hansen is another selfless fighter and dear friend who is also a hell of an organizer and a steady, cool-headed voice for unity and moving forward in all of our coalition work. Tamara is a leader of the International U.S.-Cuba Normalization Conference Coalition and the Vancouver Communities in Solidarity with Cuba. Here in New York, New Jersey, Cuba C over many years have developed a close comradeship based on a shared political perspective since 2017 with our Vancouver comrades, and we couldn't do this work without them. So if I can bring up Tamara and César, and you guys will now take over. Thank you, everybody.
Good. Welcome, everyone. Thank you all for coming at such a beautiful, fine day, but a very important day today. As we all know, this is called the Action Conference, and we're here to work together, to collaborate, to amplify our movement, our Cuban Solidarity movement. Easier said than done. The whole purpose of this conference is that we are going to share ideas and actually move forward and continue our commitment with Cuba. Of course, I'm not going to preach to the choir. Dance.
and César Omar Sánchez for bringing us together in such a good way this morning. We know that this conference is happening at a very urgent time for Cuba, and we have some really important tasks and perspectives to discuss together this weekend, including an action plan that we're going to be discussing tomorrow. We hope that you will come back and join us again tomorrow after our workshops and plenary sessions today to talk about how we're going to take action over the next year to defend Cuba against U.S. bullying, against U.S. imperialist aggression, and to make sure that Cuba is able to stand on its own 2 feet and to continue to be the inspiring example for working and oppressed people that it has been for so long. Viva Cuba! Viva! Abajo el bloqueo! We're very excited to welcome up this morning Gail Walker, former director of IFCO Pastors for Peace. And she is going to kick us off this morning with a special recognition of a longtime organizer in the Cuba Solidarity and many other movements for social justice. So please give a warm welcome to Gail Walker.
Good morning. Good morning. All right, I just want to, get a little bit of enthusiasm in the room. All right, because I am really honored, my dear sisters and brothers, my dear friends in the struggle, to speak about my dear friend, Dr. Rosemari Mealy. It is my profound honor, and I say this with the full weight of history on my heart, to introduce not simply a friend of Cuba, not simply an ally in the struggle, but one of Cuba's own daughters, a compañera forged in the fire of resistance, Dr. Rosemari Mealy. That's okay, you can give her another applause. Many of you know her lovingly as the People's Professor. But let me tell you, titles alone cannot hold the measure of this woman. Dr. Mealy is an activist educator in the deepest sense of the word. She carries the discipline of the law with a Juris Doctorate, the wisdom of the classroom from her years teaching at CUNY, the City University of New York, FIU, Florida International University, and lecturing at La Universidad de La Habana. But more than that, she carries the conscience of the people. She has stood, as a Black Panther, she has stood where struggles live. She has spoken where silence was demanded. She has taught where truth was forbidden. For decades, she has given her life to community activism, to artistic and intellectual liberation, and to the defense of human dignity across borders. That's right, come on up here, my sister. I'm talking about you. And I want people to see her while I'm talking about her. You did that. All right, let me keep going. For decades, I'm talking about you. That's right. She has given her life to community activism, to artistic and intellectual liberation, and to the defense of human dignity across borders. She has participated in numerous movements for international human rights, stood in global forums with organizations of conscience, and lifted her voice without apology in defense of U.S. political prisoners, in the fight for gender equality, and in the unrelenting struggle against the criminal blockade imposed on our beloved Cuba and the weaponization of sanctions against sovereign nations that dare to choose their own path. Dr. Mealy is also a prize-winning journalist, a truth teller with a pen sharpened by history. Her writings have reached people across the world, and her book, Fidel and Malcolm X, Memories of a Meeting, published by Black Classic Press, preserves one of the most sacred moments of Black and internationalist solidarity. When the people of Harlem opened their arms to Fidel Castro, and Malcolm X showed the world what it means to stand with dignity against the empire. All right. You told that story. She told that story. And let us remember, our sister Rosemari Mealy did not love Cuba from a distance. She lived there. She worked there. She served there as an internationalist and as a journalist with Radio Havana, Cuba. And to this very day, she continues to lead delegations to the island so that people can see with their own eyes, hear with their own ears, and feel with their heart, and return home ready to tell the truth that power tries to bury. Because of her solidarity is not just a slogan. Because of her, solidarity is not just a slogan. Solidarity is a practice. It is a commitment. It is life. In recognition of that life, the Council of State of the Republic of Cuba awarded Dr. Mealy the Friendship Medal in 2013. Right? That's one of the highest honors given to those outside of the island who have stood unwaveringly with the Cuban people and the Cuban Revolution. And just this past December, she was among the recipients of the prestigious medals awarded by ECAP, the Cuban Institute for Friendship with the Peoples, on the occasion of its 65th anniversary. And here at home, her work has also not gone unnoticed. She's been recognized by many for her work and dedication, and received proclamations from Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, from the Brooklyn Borough President, as well as the New York City Council. But those of us who know her understand that the greatest recognition she seeks is not from those in government, but those in the trenches, the people themselves. Right? And even now, recognizing that the struggle continues, she works to engage younger activists to pass the responsibility for picking up the torch and continuing the work for justice. She serves on the advisory committee of the Harlem-based organization While We Are Still Here, helping to preserve the sacred history of Harlem, including the street marker in front of the historic Hotel Teresa, where Josephine Baker, Malcolm X, and our beloved brother Fidel Castro once stood as symbols of a world refusing to bow. My friends, we live in a time when history is under attack, when truth is under attack, when solidarity itself is treated like a crime. That is why we need voices like Dr. Rosemari Mealy. That is why we need her courage and her example. So I ask you now to join me as we receive her not just with applause, but with the respect that we give to those who have carried the struggle when it was heavy, who have kept the faith when it was not only difficult, but when it was dangerous, and who have never stopped believing that another world is not only possible, but absolutely necessary. Please welcome, with love, with revolutionary gratitude, our sister, our compañera, our people's professor, Dr. Rosemari Mealy. I'm telling you. You know, I'm being reminded, because, you know, I went on longer. Where's Ike? Ike, I know I went over, but I know. And I was trying to shorten it a little bit, believe it or not. But thank you. I thank you so much, Ed. Has anybody met Ed Newman from Radio Havana, Cuba? Yeah. All right. When you get a chance, you know, I want you to get a chance to stay. I need to say real quickly, my first trip to Cuba was because of this sister. I was working at IFCO. I'm way up, many of you know, way up on the 3rd floor, right? It's no easy task, right, to go up and down these stairs. And I hear the phone, the doorbell ringing. Sounds like it's a fire, right? Ringing. I said, I'll go down and answer the door. I get to the front door, and it's Rosemari Mealy. She's got an application to the Venceremos Brigade. Because I kept telling her I wanted to go to Cuba. I'd never been to Cuba. Never been with the Pastors for Peace, right? My first trip was with the VB. Because Rosemari Mealy came to IFCO, came to the office, took this is my hand, and she said, this is the application. She said, you got to return it within 24 hours or some outrageous amount of time. I said, okay. And that was my first trip to Cuba because of this sister. So I just want you, I needed to squeeze that in and let you know that she's beautiful. Thank you.
Well, I was wondering who she was talking about, but thank you so much, Gail. To our dear friends, our Cuban brothers and sisters who are here, and to all of you who have come here today, I just want to say, I want to lift up a few of the women. This is International Women's Month. On getting this wonderful award, I want to lift up some of the women of whose shoulders I stand on and have stood on. For every internationalist, one of the first lessons of history is to know as much as you can about the histories of the countries that are struggling for their liberation. So I start with Cuba. There are 2 women who are the heroines of the liberation struggles of Cuba that you should learn more about. And their names are Carlota and Lucumi. Carlota and Lucumi, during 1843, led one of the first rebellious uprisings for their liberation in the province of Matanzas. And if you ever go there, there is a beautiful statue of Carlota. We are bringing the voices and the resistance of Carlota today with a group of young people that I work with on social media. And their project is called Carlota's Warriors for Cuba. And they are carrying the message of resistance and the struggles that we have to continue to wage to lift the inhumane, illegal blockade of Cuba. I just want to raise up a couple of other sisters from Jamaica, Nanny of the Maroons. Esther, Charlotte, Lucy, Cynthia, and Venus, who were a part of the Nat Turner Rebellion in the United States, 1831. And then there is Lila Khalad, a Palestinian sister who we should study her resistance and what she has done and has led the struggles of our Palestinian brothers and sisters. And then from South Africa, Charlotte Makagomi. Charlotte Makagomi. And then I would be remiss in not lifting up the name of Josina Machel. Josina Machel, Guinea-Bissau, was a revolutionary sister And of course, we must remember and thank our Cuban brothers and sisters for never using her as a negotiating tool in any of the negotiations between the United States and Cuba. They gave her freedom, and she died on free soil, Assata Shakur. Thank you, and I would be remiss if I did not lift up the name of my ancestor sister, another attorney who taught me at the Center for Constitutional Rights, and also when I worked for Lennox Hines at Stephen Hines and White. Today is the second anniversary of her passing. I lift up the name of our sister, Joan Gibbs. There are so many others that we must remember, and my mother, Rosa Mealy. Brothers and sisters, thank you for this honor. Thank you so much, the National Conference, to end this illegal, inhumane blockade of Cuba. And as I stand on the soil of our ancestors who were here before us, I want to thank you so much over and over again. I am truly honored. And you talk about unity. Yes, I have clearly been in political disagreement with some of the forces who are here, but politically, but Cuba is the force that unites us all. Thank you so much. Cuba sí, Blockade no, Cuba sí, no. César will help you. Okay, all right, where's the honor? Thank you.
So we try to open the U.S.-Cuba Normalization Conference every year, recognizing the important work that has come for so many years before us. Thank you so much to Gail and to Dr. Rosemari Mealy. That was a very powerful way to get us started. I'm now very honored to invite up our first Cuban speaker today. We have the big honor of having today with us Osmayda Hernández Beleño. She is the director of the Cuban Federation of Women's Department of International Relations. She's here in New York City for the United Nations Summit on the Status of Women. And it's such a huge honor that she is spending her day here with us today, sharing her knowledge, her expertise, and we are so honored to have her here. I'm also going to give a thank you to Martine Koppel, who is going to do translation for Osmayda this morning. So let's give them both a warm welcome to the stage.
Muy buenos días,
Good morning, good afternoon.
queridas amigas y amigos de Cuba.
Dear friends of Cuba,
Para la delegación cubana que participa en la 70ª sesión de la Comisión de la Condición Jurídica y Social de la Mujer, es motivo de inmensa satisfacción participar en la 6ª Conferencia Internacional por la Normalización de las Relaciones entre Estados Unidos y Cuba.
for the Cuban delegation that is taking part in the 70th session of the Commission on the Legal and Social Status of Women, it gives us immense satisfaction to participate in the 6th International Conference for the Normalization of U.S.-Cuba Relations.
Este importante evento se desarrolla en momentos en que el pueblo cubano vive una profunda crisis energética como consecuencia de las políticas de máxima presión que la administración del gobierno estadounidense impone al país.
This important event is taking place at a time in which the Cuban people is living through a deep energy crisis as a result of the maximum pressure policies imposed on our country by the U.S. administration.
Lo que históricamente ha sido para Cuba un bloqueo económico, comercial y financiero que perdura por más de 6 décadas, ha mutado recientemente hacia una fase cualitativamente distinta y cuantitativamente aún más agresiva e inhumana.
What has historically been for Cuba an economic, commercial, and financial blockade, which has continued for more than 6 decades, has changed recently into a qualitatively different phase and a quantitatively more aggressive and inhumane one.
Cuba sufre la continuidad de medidas coercitivas unilaterales con enorme impacto extraterritorial en las relaciones con todos los países y se enfrenta a un cerco sistémico diseñado quirúrgicamente para provocar carencias capaces de dañar y revertir el desarrollo social de nuestra nación y la calidad de vida de nuestra población con fines de desestabilización.
Cuba is suffering the continuing effects of unilateral coercive measures with an enormous extraterritorial impact on the relations with all countries and is facing a systematic siege designed surgically to create shortages that can damage and reverse social development in our country and the quality of life of our population, designed to destabilize our country.
La injusta inclusión de Cuba en la lista de países supuestamente patrocinadores del terrorismo, sumada a la persecución de contratos comerciales con países y empresas para adquirir combustibles, el acoso, la intersección y la confiscación de buques que transportan combustibles, así como las amenazas de sanciones y en otros casos su aplicación efectiva contra empresas navieras, han generado una presión aún mayor que trasciende lo económico para situarse en el terreno de la seguridad humana básica, al afectar el acceso a bienes y servicios esenciales como alimentos, el agua, los medicamentos, los combustibles y la electricidad, fundamentales para garantizar el derecho a la vida y otros derechos humanos básicos.
The unjust placing of Cuba on the list of states supposedly sponsoring terrorism, on top of the targeting of commercial contracts with countries and companies in order to purchase fuel, the harassment, interception, and confiscation of ships transporting fuel, as well as the threats of sanctions and in other cases their effective use of sanctions against shipping companies, has generated an even greater pressure that goes beyond the economic effects to have an impact on basic human security, affecting access to essential goods and services such as food, water, medicine, fuel, electricity, which are vital to guarantee the right to life and other basic human rights.
Ante el severo bloqueo energético y la escasez de combustible de los últimos meses, Cuba no se ha quedado de brazos cruzados. Ha implementado medidas dentro de la estrategia energética nacional, priorizando la protección de los servicios esenciales y acelerando los proyectos de fuentes renovables de energía como solución sostenible y soberana a largo plazo.
In face of the sharp economic energy blockade and the shortage of fuel in the last few months, Cuba has not stood idly by. We have implemented measures as part of the national energy strategy, giving priority to the protection of essential services and accelerating projects for the development of renewable energy sources as a sustainable and sovereign solution in the long term.
En este sentido, se han instalado 995 sistemas de paneles solares en viviendas aisladas y en centros sociales. Se han instalado módulos fotovoltaicos a 120 niños que padecen enfermedades que requieren climatización permanente en sus hogares. De igual forma, a más de 10,000 trabajadores de la salud y la educación.
So Cuba has installed 995 systems of solar panel systems in homes, in isolated areas, and in social centers. We have installed solar units for 120 children who suffer from illnesses that require permanent air conditioning in their homes. We also have installed solar panels in the homes of 10,000 health and education workers.
Más de 900 empresas disponen de sistemas fotovoltaicos para acometer sus actividades. 6.765 viviendas ya se encuentran conectadas al sistema electroenergético nacional mediante estos sistemas fotovoltaicos. 636 bombeos solares para el bombeo de agua a la población, que son sobre todo en acueductos para la comunidad, y 462 bombeos solares para el riego de la agricultura, que a la misma vez se están haciendo importantes inversiones en las ramas de la hidroeléctrica y la energía eólica.
More than 900 state enterprises now have solar panels to carry out their activities. 6,765 homes now are connected to the national electrical system through solar panel systems. 636 solar-powered water pumps for the population, which are, above all, aqueducts for the community. 462 solar-powered pumps for irrigation in agriculture, and we are also investing in the branch of hydroelectric and wind power.
Amigas y amigos de Cuba, durante todos estos años han sido constantes los intentos de destruir el ejemplo, que para muchos en el mundo significa la Revolución Cubana. Más de 60 años de embargos, leyes extraterritoriales, bloqueos petroleros y sobrevivir al estrangulamiento sin claudicar es algo que el imperialismo no puede comprender.
For all these years, there have been constant attempts to destroy the example that the Cuban Revolution represents for many in the world. More than 60 years of embargoes, extraterritorial laws, oil blockades, surviving the efforts to strangle us without giving in is something that imperialism cannot comprehend.
Cuba no constituye amenaza alguna para Estados Unidos ni para ningún otro país del mundo, como ha expresado Donald Trump. El problema de Cuba es que esparció su ejemplo de solidaridad e internacionalismo en un capitalismo destructivo que expresa lo contrario.
Cuba does not represent any threat to the United States or to any other country in the world. As Donald Trump has put it, the problem of Cuba is actually the problem that Cuba has spread its example of solidarity and internationalism in the face of a destructive capitalism that expresses the complete opposite.
El problema de Cuba es que ha sido y es un ejemplo de autodeterminación, de resistencia al bloqueo criminal. Es el ejemplo de haberse involucrado en la lucha para poner fin al régimen del apartheid africano. Es el ejemplo que dio cuando recibió a las víctimas del desastre de Chernóbil. Es el ejemplo del compromiso en sus misiones médicas y sanitarias que envía a decenas de países y que profundizó como política en plena pandemia cuando ningún otro país se atrevía.
Cuba is an example of self-determination, of resistance to the criminal blockade. It is the example of having become involved in the struggle to put an end to the South African apartheid regime. It is the example that Cuba gave when it welcomed and offered treatment to the victims of the Chernobyl disaster. It is the exemplary commitment of its medical and healthcare missions that go to dozens of countries and that has deepened as a policy in the middle of the pandemic when no other country would do so.
¡Viva Cuba! Cuba es un ejemplo de independencia que irradia con fuerza y que por rara paradoja fue la última nación de América Latina en independizarse de otro imperio, el español, para que otro, Estados Unidos, le echara encima. Ante las amenazas de Trump, el presidente Miguel Díaz-Canel declaró: Cuba es una nación libre, independiente y soberana. Nadie nos dicta qué hacer. Cuba no agrede, es agredida por el gobierno de Estados Unidos hace 66 años y no amenaza, se prepara dispuesta a defender la patria hasta la última gota de sangre.
Cuba is an example of independence that continues to radiate strength, and because of a unique paradox, it was the last nation in Latin America to win its independence from another empire, Spain, only for yet another empire, United States, to fall on top of it. In face of the threats by Trump, President Miguel Díaz-Canel declared, Cuba is a free, independent, and sovereign nation. No one dictates to us what to do. Cuba does not attack. It is being attacked by the United States and has been for the last 66 years. It does not threaten. Cuba prepares, is ready to defend the homeland to the last drop of our blood.
Amigos y amigas que nos acompañan hoy, en este intenso batallar por defender nuestra soberanía, hemos contado con el apoyo indiscutible de la solidaridad, de miles de amigos y amigas que han denunciado injusticias, mentiras y campañas de manipulación.
Dear friends who are with us here today, in this intense battle to defend our sovereignty, we have had the unquestionable support of the solidarity of thousands of friends who have denounced the injustices, lies, and manipulations.
Articularnos en defensa de la revolución cubana para poner fin a este bloqueo genocida e inhumano es, sin dudas, un acto de amor y de compromiso con un país que durante más de 6 décadas ha sido ejemplo de solidaridad y altruismo, de resistencia y determinación, principios que mantendrá por difíciles que sean los tiempos. Muchas gracias a todos y a todas por estar aquí y a los organizadores de esta conferencia.
We organize in defense of the Cuban Revolution to put an end to this genocidal and inhumane blockade. It is undoubtedly an act of love and commitment with a country that for more than 6 decades has been an example of solidarity and altruism, of resistance and determination, principles that we will maintain no matter how difficult the times are. Many thanks to all of you here.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Osmayda. Please, another round of applause for Osmayda, por favor. Thank you. Thank you. As you can, based on what she said, obviously you can tell that Cuba's resilience, they keep on fighting, they're enduring, and despite the blockade, they're still working and keep on building, and they're not going to give up. And for that same resistance, we got to keep up that same resistance as well. So with that, let's keep on going. And I also want to say right now, as we're speaking, we're having this conference right now, our brothers and sisters, our comrades in Cuba, ECAP is watching right now. So please, if you're watching, saludo Fernando, Leima, the whole group in Cuba. I know you're watching. We love you. And our next speaker right now is nuestro hermano, compañero, the ambassador, the permanent representative of Cuba to the United Nations, Ernesto, Soberón Guzmán. Please, round of applause.
Dear sisters and brothers, good morning. It is an honor to attend this 2026 International United States-Cuba Normalization Conference. I thank the organizer of the event for the kind invitation they sent to us to be here. On behalf of the permanent mission of Cuba to the United Nations, I would like to extend my warmest greeting to you for making this day of solidarity and friendship with Cuba possible, especially at this time when the hostility of the US government has escalated to unprecedented levels. We appreciate the countless expressions of sensitivity and humanity shown to the Cuban nation, especially the specific actions of support. They are an expression of solidarity between peoples that transcends the policy of the current US administration. These actions embody the position promoted and defended by this conference that bring us together today, including the conviction that the Cuban and US people can have normal relations. Cuba does not threaten or attack any country. It is a peaceful, supporting, and cooperative country, willing to help and contribute to other states. Cuba's historical willingness to engage in serious, responsible dialogue with the United States government based on sovereign equality, mutual benefit, non-interference in internal affairs, and absolute respect to the independence and sovereignty of states is widely documented, like our President Díaz-Canel announced yesterday in the morning. We consider respect for sovereignty to be a fundamental value for building functional relations between states. Dear comrades, today more than ever, the support we receive from you takes on special significance. Cuba is under unprecedented siege. Since January 3, 2026, the United States aggression against our region, and Cuba in particular, has escalated alarmingly. An extremely complex scenario has emerged following the approval of the US President's executive order announcing on January 29, 2026, which declared a supposed national emergency under which his government will be able to impose trade tariff on import of products from countries that supplied oil to Cuba. At a recent press conference, our Minister of Public Health announced the impact that this oil embargo is having on our health system. With the current energy restrictions, the surgical waiting list in the country has reached 96,387 patients and counting, of whom 11,193 are children. The objective of this criminal policy by the United States is to exacerbate the suffering of a people subjected to an inhumane blockade for more than 6 decades, and to force a social uprising that would fulfill the long-standing desire to destroy the revolution. However, we will prevent a crisis of this magnitude from occurring. The Cuban government, with the help of friends around the world, some of them are right here, right now in this room, is taking measures to prevent it. We have discreetly increased our oil production capacity. In addition, we are rapidly transforming our electricity generation matrix, inaugurating new photovoltaic solar farms whose installed capacities already exceeds 1,000 megawatts of generation at peak consumption hours. Solar panels are being installed in schools, hospitals, banks, food processing centers, and other basic infrastructure to ensure that they maintain the necessary functionality in any scenario. Of course, the challenges are immense. The generated units of national electricity system are aging, and we have more than 1,000 megawatts of distributed generation that we cannot use due to a lack of diesel fuel. In addition, the impact on passenger and freight transport has affected the living condition and cost of living for our people. It is difficult for a country in the 21st century to function normally when a superpower cut off its access to a key resource such as fuel. Amidst the danger of a current moment, between threats and psychological warfare campaigns, what the administration of the current US president fails to consider is the extraordinary resilience and patriotism of the Cuban people. And even less do they bear in mind Cuba's friends, their solidarity and their strong will to overcome any obstacle in order to support us. In conclusion, I would like to reiterate the Cuban people and their revolution will continue in steadfast defense of our right to sovereignty. Despite blockades and aggressions, we will continue to resist. No matter how great the challenge, we will overcome them because Cuba is not alone. We wish you fruitful deliberation during this important conference. We know it will be a successful event. Hasta la victoria, siempre. Patria o muerte, venceremos. Cuba sí. Cuba sí. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias. Thank you so much to our two amazing Cuban guests, Osmayda Hernández Beleño and His Excellency Ernesto Soberón Guzmán, for those powerful messages. We are meant to have His Excellency Felix Plasencia, the new Venezuelan ambassador to the United Nations, or to the United States, my apologies, but it seems he's not arrived yet. So we are going to move on with our final two speakers for the plenary session, and then we'll be moving into the second plenary session. So I'm really honored to invite up Corina Mullen. Corina is an anti-imperialist academic who teaches international politics and political economy here at CUNY. She was a member of the steering committee of the International People's Tribunal on U.S. Imperialism and a member of the Anti-Imperialist Scholars Collective. She serves on the steering committee of the Professional Staff Congress, or PSC, CUNY's International Committee, and is a member of the Delegate Assembly. She is a member of the Secretariat of the U.S. Peace Council and national convener of the Labor for Palestine National Network. So I'd like to give a warm welcome to Corina Mullen.
Thank you so much, and thanks for that introduction. I also want to thank Ike and Aaron, did an amazing job in organizing this. Incredible Gail Walker, Dr. Rosemari Mealy, that was such a beautiful speech, both of you, and dedication. Tamara and César, Omar, Sánchez, and then our incredible Cuban speakers, Osmayda, Hernández, Beleño, and His Excellency Ambassador Ernesto Soberón Guzmán. Thank you so much. It's just such a huge honor for me to be here with you all today. And just to say, it's a profound honor to speak in this opening plenary of the Cuba Normalization Conference and to share this space with such illustrious guests, so many of my revolutionary heroes, people I've learned so much from and been inspired from over the years, and especially incredible to have the Cuban delegation with us today. Here in the belly of the beast, it's a reminder and a testament to the dignity and the resilience of the Cuban Revolution. Since this conference is taking place here at CUNY in a university, it's important to remember the words of Comandante Fidel Castro, who spoke so powerfully about the importance of the battle of ideas. For those of us here who are students, educators, knowledge workers, that is our task, to use our research, our teaching, our methodology, our pedagogy to support the forces of liberation around the world. And Cuba, of course, stands at the heart of these forces. And we wage this battle of ideas not in the abstract, but rooted in the communities where we are embedded. CUNY, for example, is a working class institution. We serve largely black and brown students coming from immigrant communities, many who are fleeing the very same death and destruction wrought by US imperialist economic and military intervention that targets Cuba. It is the same state that blockades Cuba that launched a criminal military intervention and illegal hostage-taking of Venezuela's President Maduro and first combatant Cilia Flores, that imposes unilateral coercive measures and genocidal violence against states and peoples that refuse submission, from Cuba to Iran. That same state is waging war on our working class black and brown communities right here at home. Right now, as we gather, ICE raids are terrorizing our immigrant communities. The same empire that blockades and conducts genocidal economic warfare on Cuba, that funds genocide and arms to commit genocide in Palestine. The same empire is waging war on our immigrant, indigenous, black and brown communities here. And to understand this moment, we must see it as the latest phase of a more than 6-decade blockade and more than century-long imperialist war on Cuba. Cuba, of course, as we know, was a Spanish colony until 1898, when the U.S. seized it as a neo-colonial power. The 1958 Cuban Revolution smashed that old order, and for the empire, this act of self-determination was unforgivable. The empire claims it is Cuba that is the threat, but let us be clear, we all know here that Cuba is not the threat, and the threat is U.S. empire itself. The very system of U.S. imperialism that cannot tolerate a sovereign socialist alternative in its backyard. And since 1959, U.S. imperialism has relentlessly tried to destroy the revolution, first through invasion, crushed at the Bay of Pigs, then through hundreds of assassination attempts against Comandante Fidel Castro. When invasion failed, the U.S. turned to economic warfare and what Fidel Castro accurately described as economic genocide, a policy of collective punishment designed to deliberately starve a people into submission. Now this war has entered a new phase. The Trump administration has escalated with a total oil blockade on Cuba, impacting schools, hospitals, and every aspect, every sector of society. The UN High Commissioner for Human Rights recently denounced this policy, stating, "Nothing can justify the strangulation of a population." But here is the truth that empire cannot comprehend. Cuba continues to resist. Despite decades of economic warfare, the Cuban Revolution endures, a living embodiment of internationalist solidarity that sent nearly 400,000 fighters to contribute to liberating the African continent from colonial rule and apartheid, that has trained thousands of doctors across the global south at the Latin American School of Medicine, that has consistently paid in blood and resources to build a different world where solidarity, not exploitation, is the path to human liberation. And this is the Cuba that empire seeks to destroy. And just as Cuba resists, so too must we, because Cuba's fight is our fight. The same empire that strangles Cuba with economic warfare is the same empire that sends ICE into our communities, that it wages war on our working class communities, that funds genocide in Palestine, that imposes unilateral coercive measures across the globe. And our Cuba's resistance inspires our resistance, and our resistance here strengthens theirs. So make no mistake, we are resisting, and everyone in this room is a testament to that. And across this country, a movement built on decades of tireless organizing by so many of the organizations and revolutionaries in this room with us here today has continued building. We've seen so many, countless protests, rallies, pickets, conferences, and more than 117 resolutions representing over 60 million people demanding an end to the blockade and Cuba's removal from the so-called state sponsor of terrorist list. From grassroots groups to national coalitions, from unions to community organizations, from student collectives to faith-based networks, the countless forces that have kept this fight alive from generations, you are the heart of this movement. And we are proud at CUNY, the PSC CUNY, the union that I'm a member of, and so many of you here are as well. We passed our own resolution in 2022 in opposition to the blockade because this struggle hits home. So many of our students, our faculty, our staff are from countries impacted by U.S. imperialism. They know what it means when their families' homelands are strangled by U.S. economic and military warfare. The blockade also cuts off academic exchange, blocks scientific collaboration, and tells our students that another world is not possible. So we say in response, another world is possible. Cuba shows us every day. Our task over these 2 days is to sharpen our strategies, deepen our solidarity, remove Cuba from the so-called state sponsor of terrorism list now, end the blockade now, defend the Cuban revolution, and stand with the country as it resists U.S. imperialism. Cuba sí, bloqueo no. Venceremos.
Thank you, Corina, for this powerful speech, those powerful words. I also want to thank Corina because she actually helped us out a lot to get to this venue and organizing. So please, another round of applause for Corina, please. Okay, right now we're just going to keep moving forward. We have right now, and I'm just going to cue the guys in the back. We have a video from Kevin Kucera, from the Union Southern California District President and International Association of the Machinists, IAM. So the video, and if you could just play the video, please.
It's an honor to join you here today to speak briefly with all of you in support of Cuba. My name is Kevin Kucera. We are in solidarity with the Cuban people. Unions and our challenges with the billionaire class are hitting us hard. But there is an amazing uprising, an amazing pushback. The working class is taking to the streets, rising up and saying no to Trump's policies, saying no to ICE, saying no to imperial colonialism. And all of this is making a difference. Through organizing like these efforts here today to end and defeat this humanitarian crisis in Cuba. We must and will continue to defend the sovereignty of Cuba and Cuba's right to self-determination. We must continue to protest. We must continue to make our voices heard in the streets, through social media, and beyond. We live in a system of capitalism that doesn't give a shit about workers. And if we don't take on the capitalist, there won't be a world at all. The attack on Cuba and Cuba's rights is an attack on workers' rights around the world. And just remember that the people's power is much greater than these people in power. Our union and the AFL-CIO stand with the Cuban people in solidarity. Thank you for your time.
All right, I'm just moving forward right now. Well, right now, as we wrap up the first plenary, I think it's very important that I want to point out too that there's a reminder we have an Action Plus discussion tomorrow, Sunday, same place here at CUNY between the hours of 12 and 3, I believe. So, we want people to participate. If you cannot, again, I believe it's also going to be live streamed. And just try your best to kind of keep that connection going, make the connections right now today as we gather in this wonderful conference. So we're going to head to our second plenary right now, and I'm going to introduce co-chair of mine, Sarah Flounders, if you're still here. Got it, all right. Sarah Flounders, she's actually from the United National Anti-War Coalition and coordinator of Section for Kill and contributing editor of Worker World. And I guess I'll be co-chairing.
T's here.
Yes, and T, yes, thank you. T, she's here now. She's actually going to be the second co-chair, and she's she's an international art curator and researcher, UN Global Ambassador for Peace, Cuba CED NYNJ coalition member. So I'm just going to pass it on to my co-chair, Tamara.
Thank you so much, César. So we're just, a few people have arrived last minute, and we're just pulling everything together here. But we're very excited to introduce our second plenary session, which is on anti-intervention organizing in the Americas. And we're actually going to invite up Dr. Rosemari Mealy once again to give us a little bit of context about the importance of anti-intervention organizing in the Americas. And then Sarah Flounders and T will come up and host this section. So let's give another warm welcome to Dr. Rosemari Mealy.
Thank you so much, Tamara. I'll just be brief. As we know, and as Corina has laid out to us, exactly the strategy of the empire. For those of you who have read through chapters of Project 2025, it was laid out to us what they were going to do. They've been planning it for the past 40 plus years and even going back further. The goal of the United States at this moment, under the fascist administration of Trump, and even, unfortunately, some of his allies in the Democratic Party, is to lay the foundation for recolonizing the world. Recolonizing the world. To move us back into an era when we were enslaved. And that is exactly the struggles that are going on around the world, including in the Caribbean, and Cuba is a part of that, and Latin America. It's the struggle for the right to sovereignty. And so you have to follow the path of the empire. One of the first tasks was to find the weak links. Finding the weak links started out with an attack against the global health projects that Cuba has endured for more than 60 years. An attempt to destroy those projects by calling Cuban internationalist doctors and health personnel that they were being slaves and that their labor was being trafficked throughout Asia, Africa, and Latin America. So the Caribbean nation, one of the Caribbean nations, was one of the first that was necessary to align itself, and that was Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad now serves as the front runner for Trump's initiative to recolonize, to militarize the entire region. And that is exactly what our brothers and sisters in the Caribbean are taking up that struggle. And then, of course, we saw one of Cuba's most recent friends, after more than 50 years, Jamaica caved in. So the people and the resistance movement of the Cuban Solidarity Movement and people in Jamaica are struggling against that. People in Trinidad are struggling against what their leaders are doing. And in Guyana, a part of Trump's submission last weekend when he met in Mar-a-Lago with those leaders, fascistic leaders from Latin America. So at this moment, and what we want to take up in this workshop is how do you delineate friends from who has aligned itself with the empire? I think that will be our challenge in this workshop, and we will have speakers who will address that, who will provide you with almost like a project emerging out of this project of what we have to do to coalesce and not allow ourselves to be divided by borders. Okay, so I think that's the challenge of this particular panel.
Greetings to everyone. High energy today. And I'm Sarah Flounders. I'll be co-chairing this session with Therese Iriarte, who of Cuba C, New York, New Jersey, an international arts curator, and the UN Global Ambassador for Peace. I am part of United National Anti-War Coalition, the Sanctions Kill campaign, and a contributing editor to Workers' World. So let's start this session on internationalism, non-intervention, with the most important message of the Americas, which is Cuba C? Cuba C? It's an honor to be here with friends, and this is a time of intense solidarity. It has to re-energize us all to a real challenge ahead. We're in the midst of a vicious, rapidly expanding, US-instigated war in Iran, and it is a moment of maximum pressure. So I want to open this session on anti-intervention and internationalism with a quote from President Diaz-Canel to the people of Iran. He said, "We feel deep sorrow and grief upon learning of the assassination of the supreme leader of the Iranian nation as a result of the vile aggression of the United States and Israel. We will remember him as an outstanding statesman and leader of the Iranian people who contributed decisively to the development and consolidation of friendly and cooperative relations between our countries. He expressed the solidarity and heartfelt condolences of the Cuban people. He spoke of the aggression of the United States and Israel that included the killing of children with its unpredictable consequences for all the people of the region, as well as for international peace, security, and stability." Now, why is this so connected as we meet today on Cuba? 2 days ago, Trump threatened, very openly, a friendly takeover of Cuba after he's finished with Iran. Then yesterday, he said it might or it might not be a friendly takeover. These are the kind of real threats, and it's one more reason to be out there defending Iran while defending Cuba. The two are linked in the world and in Trump's threats and in life. Now, why is Cuba targeted? They have no oil. Cuba needs oil and energy. It's Cuba's internationalism, that's its crime. Cuba provides more medical staff to the developing world, to Africa, the Caribbean, Latin America, than the World Health Organization and the G7 countries combined. That's Cuba's internationalism, and it's that ability to link solidarity and concrete aid. It's a crime to US imperialism. So when we take solar panels to Cuba, we also recognize that China has provided solar parks to Cuba that provides now 25% of the energy and growing quickly toward 50%, not only solar farms, wind farms, thermal power, electric buses. This is what the world needs in terms of becoming self-reliant, countries around the world, and especially for Cuba. So Cuba needs both our aid, our solidarity, and China's aid, and every form of solidarity. Countries are linked deeply and self-reliance, simple technology, and people's resistance is changing the world. That's a shock to U.S. imperialism. Now, U.S. bases aren't just pieces of real estate, and U.S. ships aren't just boats bobbing around in the ocean. They're intended as weapons of terror. Aircraft carrier battle groups, jets, destroyers, nuclear submarines. After the U.S. assassinated their most respected leader in Iran and 49 other top political and military leaders, they intentionally bombed a school with 175 little girls in an opening sneak terror attack in the midst of negotiations. This is the way U.S. imperialism does business. Trump announced at the time of this bombing, "I will appoint your leaders, and I demand unconditional surrender." This is the same thing the U.S. wants for Cuba. And it's the same that they expected from Venezuela when the U.S. kidnapped President Duarte and Celia Flores. But the whole people came together in Venezuela. We saw that. The political, the judiciary, the military, the people's militia. Now, the U.S. expectation was that Cuba would crumble into submission at this devastating sense of power from the U.S. Instead, they rose up in rage with well-planned weapons, and they're low-tech weapons. Every drone Iran fires in self-defense is also a defense of Cuba, immediately. That's who Trump says is next in line. So we may be in for a long, expanding war. U.S. imperialism and their vicious Zionist proxies are spreading terror. Right now, they're bombing the entire city of Beirut, and as people fled to the coast and set up little tents, they came back and bombed those tents. This is what's going on this minute. U.S. Israeli bases, however, are going dark as their radar eyes are being taken out, one after the other. That's those drones. That's those drones. Iranian drones have disrupted and destroyed surveillance, communication, cloud computing. Amazon's cloud is gone in the region. So the war has moved from U.S. military bases to data centers to oil installations. The Straits of Hormuz are now closed to Iran's enemies. But not to their friends. That's very interesting. There's new rules, new rules. Trump just announced this morning a huge military naval offensive to open the Straits of Hormuz. We'll see how that goes. This is a widening, ever more dangerous war. Iran is fighting for everyone who believes in liberation, in internationalism, in resistance. And so everyone here who is for Palestine, for Venezuela, for Nicaragua, and all of us here today for Cuba, we're going to end with President Diaz-Canel, who reminded us today full solidarity with Iran under attack. Venceremos! I'm now going to turn it over. Let me pick up my pieces of paper to Therese Iriarte, and she will introduce and give her opening. So, Therese.
Thank you, Sarah, for that very powerful, those powerful remarks. I am so blown away by your passion. Welcome, everyone. My name is Therese Iriarte. I am a woman of both Afro-Caribbean descent in Puerto Rico and Cuba. Thank you. So as you know, there is an extreme military presence in Puerto Rico. And I will keep these remarks very brief because I know we have to bring up our speakers. But the direct impact on my life, lived reality, and lineage is something I have to live with on a daily basis. So what I will say is I will always and forever stand in solidarity with the Cuban people, regardless of bloodline. The Puerto Rico, our archipelago, is being occupied right now as we speak, as I stand before you, with military presence on our entire island. When I left, and I flew in from Puerto Rico a week ago, there was military presence all throughout San Juan, as well as the west side of the island. There's a military base reopened in Vieques, and as you know the history, as history has it, our people fought hard to get the military, U.S. military, out of Vieques for years. And so we're back at the same fight. And as you know, Puerto Rico and Cuba are two wings of the same bird. So I say to you, today we fight hard, today we remember, today we honor and invoke the energy and the revolutionary spirit of our ancestors. I mean, in particular, I am channeling the energy of those ancestors as I stand before you and as I stand in those streets and fight for Cuba and fight to end the blockade in Cuba, to get Cuba removed off the state sponsors of terrorism list, which they should have never been placed upon. That designation is erroneous in nature, and we will fight against this evil, diabolical, sociopathic regime. We will fight for the entire region of the Caribbean and Latin America. We will help to free and keep fighting and standing outside the doors in downtown Manhattan to free the President Maduro and his wife, Venezuela. And we will fight and help Haiti. Often Haiti, the fight for Haiti falls into the margins, and I really want to uplift Haiti because much of Latin America and the Caribbean would not be free if it weren't for Haiti. So that I'll close, and we'll prepare to bring the speakers up. Thank each of you, comrades, for being in this fight and being here alongside to fight for not just my ancestors, my lineage, the people that I carried the bloodline through. And one last thing I want to uplift and invoke into this space is the spirit of Assata Shakur. So our first speaker will be on video. We'll have a solidarity message from Alina Duarte, who's a Mexican journalist, and she will be giving a report on solidarity with Cuba and Mexico. Followed by Berthony Dupont, who's the editor in Haiti and Liberte, and Sarah will give some more information about him and his fight, his long, dedicated fight to this movement. David Abdullah from Trinidad and Tobago was not able to make it, but he does send his love and solidarity to each of us and to all the people of Cuba. Artemio Camacho will join us in person. He's from the Cuba Solidarity Movement in Puerto Rico. Thank you.
Compañeros y compañeras, mi nombre es Alina Duarte, periodista, activista, educadora popular aquí en la Ciudad de México. Y el día de hoy me permito con mucha alegría mandarles no solamente un abrazo, sino todo mi agradecimiento, porque sé que desde múltiples trincheras siguen sosteniendo procesos profundamente revolucionarios. Es en este momento más que nunca el que nos tiene que hacer sentido la unidad que ya soñaba José Martí, Simón Bolívar, ocupar esa trinchera y dar lo que decía el comandante Fidel, esa batalla de las ideas que vale más que la batalla de piedras. Y es ahí desde donde creo el encontrarnos, el poder no solamente saludarnos, sino seguir imaginando, organizando y creando esos futuros emancipatorios es que cobra relevancia. Y así lo estamos haciendo en el caso de México, en donde múltiples convocatorias han nacido las últimas semanas, los últimos meses y diría los últimos años, pero con la particular urgencia en los últimos meses, después de aquel 3 de enero y después de estas amenazas en contra de una pequeña y tan grande isla al mismo tiempo. En el caso de Venezuela, de Cuba, han sido múltiples los llamados, los eventos, las conferencias. Hemos tomado las calles, las plazas, diciendo alto al intervencionismo, respeto a la autodeterminación de los pueblos, respeto a la soberanía y también decir que hemos tomado también varios espacios para llenarlos de ayuda que se ha enviado exitosamente gracias al liderazgo, compromiso de la presidenta Claudia Sheinbaum, y todas esas toneladas que ha recabado el pueblo de México han llegado ya a buen puerto en La Habana, en Cuba en general, y se estará repartiendo, contrario a lo que dicen varios medios de comunicación, al pueblo que ha resistido, que mantiene un proceso que ha sido ejemplo e inspiración para muchos otros tantos durante más de 6 décadas. Sin embargo, también hay que decir que pues, México no es la excepción en esta afrenta imperialista que hemos estado viviendo durante estos últimos años, en un momento en donde es claro que pues el imperio está perdiendo esa hegemonía y que para no perderla araña, rasga, bombardea, secuestra, y por eso es tan urgente este llamado de unidad. Durante los últimos meses hemos visto también amenazas en contra, no solo de la presidenta Claudia Sheinbaum, en contra del gobierno, sino en contra también del pueblo de México. Estas maniobras que toma la administración estadounidense para decir y sugerir en múltiples ocasiones invasiones, amenazas, en el menor de los casos, que también es grave, el no atender las convenciones internacionales, tratados comerciales, y pues dándonos escenas que no creíamos haber visto ni siquiera en películas de Hollywood. Es por eso que, insisto, desde México tenemos esa claridad de que la causa es una y es la defensa de la emancipación de nuestros pueblos. No podemos permitir ni intervención ni subordinación, que es lo que dice la presidenta Claudia Sheinbaum todos los días. Así que ante este llamado recobremos y sostengamos esa esperanza de que podemos ver nacer y hacer parir un nuevo mundo posible. Reciban pues un abrazo desde la Ciudad de México y toda nuestra disposición a seguir trabajando por la transformación de raíz de las desigualdades, de las injusticias entre todos y todas. Hoy más que nunca están vivos esos ideales que ya soñaba José Martí con nuestra América, Simón Bolívar con la patria grande. Sí es posible crear estos espacios, estos encuentros emancipatorios. Así que un abrazo cálido, cálido hasta allá, y pues sigamos construyendo esa nuestra América que verán habrá de nacer.
We'd next like to bring up Berthony Dupont, who is the editor of Haiti Liberte. And just to say that Berthony, over so many years with the Haiti Liberte publication in French, in Creole, in English, has been a voice in the Haitian community here and also in Haiti for revolution, for resistance, The kidnapping, and we should never forget, the kidnapping of President Aristide by the U.S., brought to Central Africa Republic in complete isolation, later to South Africa. This is the way the U.S., like just as we see in Venezuela, the kidnapping and holding in prison right here in New York of President Maduro and Celia Flores. So, Berthony from Haiti, Liberte.
I'm very happy to be here tonight. It's an honor to defend Cuba, to defend Venezuela, and also my country, Haiti. Let Cuba live. Let Venezuela live. Let Haiti live. Cuba, Haiti, and Venezuela, they have the same struggle, the same fight. Do you know why? Because they have the same enemy, the US imperialism. We Asians are still today paying the price of our 1804 revolution for daring to overthrow slavery and colonialism and give birth to the first nation in the Western Hemisphere. No, USA wasn't the first nation. It was founded by slave owners. Haiti was founded by slaves who freed themselves. As such, Haiti was history's first working class victory, 7 decades before the Paris Commune. This historic victory has never been acknowledged by the former slave-owning powers, which are now panicked imperialists, waging war everywhere. My country is the victim of the enormous crime committed by French, Canadian, and above all, the US imperialism. They have devastated Haiti with the most ferocious exploitation and neocolonial domination. In the last 30 years, they and their proxies have invaded Haiti 12 times. This military intervention has worsened the situation and created chaos, all aimed at controlling the nation and plundering its precious resources like gold, or F elements, and yes, cheap wage labor. The US government is the number 1 terrorist in the world. Do you know that? When the number 1 terrorist called you terrorist, called a nation called Cuba terrorist, called nuclear terrorist, that means something bad is going in that country. Today, the Gusano Marco Rubio is deciding for Haiti's future. Last month, 3 US warships arrived off Port-au-Prince to force the population to accept a US puppet prime minister, Alex DJ Fizimi. Yes, I heard the murderous mercenaries of the infamous Airy Prince to massacre with drone and jet squad hundreds of men, women, and children in Haiti slums. Fizemi's sole goal is to sell our country to foreign capitalists, just as just as was done during the first U.S. Marine War, the first U.S. occupation a century ago. No one in Haiti believes the Trump administration grotesque lie that is acting, and I quote, to demonstrate the firm and unwavering commitment of the United States in the security, stability, and building of a better future for Haiti, at a time when the country is facing a profound institutional and security crisis. End of quote. In reality, they themselves are the architect of the Haiti crisis, orchestrated to reduce Haitian to a modern slavery that will serve the interests of the U.S. imperialism as it wages war across the globe. Cuba is experiencing what we went through after our 1804 revolution. Washington wants to make Cuba, or the people of Cuba, pay for the 1959 revolution. That revolution has been an inspiration, a model to the people of this hemisphere and the world for the past 67 years. We Haitians know the exploitation, coup, occupation, assassination, and other horrors that we have endured and continue to endure under the U.S. imperialism. We do not want the Cuban or any other people to suffer our fate. That's why we said loud and clear, Cuba and its revolution must be defended at all costs against the terrorist attacks of the Yankees. To defend Cuba is defend ourselves. Everyone can see how imperialism and the lackeys have reduced Haitians to misery and absolute poverty. Today, this is what the U.S. imperialism, led by Trump and Rubio, want to do to Cuba and Venezuela. They want to humiliate and subjugate those nations, plundering their resources, enslaving their people, controlling their destiny. We progressive and revolutionary, we said no. Cuba and Venezuela must not become two more victims of the U.S. imperialism like Haiti and Libya. Cuba and Venezuela must not become two more victims of the U.S. imperialism like Haiti and Libya. We have to fight for that not happen. We have to take street. We have to take street to mobilize people for that not happen too, for Cuba and Venezuela became like Haiti or Libya. The Haitian people will always remain in solidarity with the Cuban and Venezuelan people, not least for the fraternal and unconditional international solidarity shown to us by the Cuban and Bolivarian revolution. Cuba has sent and trained thousands of doctors working under very, very difficult conditions to care for us, while the U.S. sent soldiers to murder us and steal our resources. Bolivarian Venezuela has provided us millions of dollars in aid and loans through its program Petrocaribe. U.S. imperialism thought that it was invincible, attacking not only Cuba, Venezuela, and Haiti, but also Iran, Lebanon, Palestine, and Yemen. But Washington is not strong. It is desperate. It is flailing. This is the end of the empire. And we must speed up that end. In every way possible. As Che Guevara said, create 1, 2, 3 Vietnams. We Asians will never abandon Cuba and Venezuela, just as they have never abandoned us. Return Guantanamo Bay to the Cuban people, and La Navassa to the Asian people. Lift the US blockade against the Cuban people. Stop war against the Iranian and Palestinian people. Gaza, Haiti, Gaza, Cuba, Gaza, Venezuela, same struggle, same fight. Free Nicolas Maduro and Celia Flores. Long live the Bolivarian Revolution of Venezuela. Long live the Cuban Revolution. Long live the struggle of the Asian people. Thank you.
Thank you, Berthony. U.S. imperialism, French imperialism, they never forgave Haiti, the first revolution of the enslaved that was victorious. So important today to remember how deep revolutions go. David Abdullah, who was to be our next speaker from Trinidad and Tobago, the Movement for Social Justice, sends his greetings, his continuing solidarity and support for Cuba and for this conference. So we'll conclude with Therese.
Thank you. And thank you, comrades, for sticking with us, staying in this fight, and continuing to make a difference for the people of Cuba. Our next speaker is Artemio Camacho from the Cuba Solidarity Movement in Puerto Rico. Welcome, Artemio.
From Puerto Rico to the entrance of the monster, as Martin mentioned, we give salute particularly to the almost 10 million working people and allies in power in Cuba, heroic people, and their heroic president, Miguel Díaz-Canel. Today, we are part of the same struggle, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Cuba. From the 19th century, we had the Puerto Rico part of the Cuban Revolutionary Party here, and we helped their revolution. They helped Grito de Lares, and we also helped the second revolution in Dominican Republic.
Please speak more directly.
Yeah, so in 1895, on the Spanish, Cuba, Philippines, U.S. war, Cuba gained their independence, but it was false because it was Platt Amendment, and there was the fight continued for their liberation. Arthur Schomburg, one of the fighters in the Puerto Rico section of the Cuban Revolutionary Party, was one of the founders, of the pioneers of the Afro-American history movement in the United States. There's a museum in Harlem where his work is revised. Puerto Rico is a military enclave of the United States since the military occupation of 1898. We've been, the currency was devalued 40%, and then we have a hurricane 1899, and the entrenchment of monopoly capitalism in Puerto Rico. Then we had the Law Jones that used us as cannon fodder in the First World War. During the Second World War, Vieques and Culebra, two islands in Puerto Rico, were occupied, and thousands of Puerto Ricans were expropriated. Being resistance in the 1930s, 1934, there was huge thousands of workers in the cane field went to strike, and they requested support of the Nationalist Party under Don Pedro Albizu Campos. And it was during the Great Depression. Nazism was surging in Germany and Japan, Spain, even in the United States. In the United States was strong movements of the working people to unionize and fighting back. We had a huge repression. Governor Winship and Commander Riggs were sent by the so-called Democratic President Franklin Delano Roosevelt to repress us. Same as the Democratic President Obama signed the Promesa law that when the bankers and big owners of Puerto Rico, mainly the United States, forced a debt of more than $77,000 million, the Fiscal Control Board and the Lake Promesa, they have been closing more than 500 schools, healthcare centers. There are huge immigration from the 50s to now. At this moment, there are 6 million Puerto Ricans in the United States, part of the working class in this country. There are 3.2 million Puerto Ricans there fighting. Last election, 2024, an alliance against the colonial cipayos, lackeys of the United States government, we came second in the election with 32%. So basically, there's been a huge change in the consciousness of Puerto Ricans. From 21 to 25, there was 11% less recruits to the military, to the so-called patriotic military that defends the United States. What is that? What nation the Democratic and Republican Party referred to? It's the nation of the rich, of the bankers and big owners. Well, the most working people in the United States and Puerto Rico and elsewhere suffer, both domestically and elsewhere. There's huge ICE rates, and not only the Latin Americans are fighting against them. This military or branch of the United States. Afro-Americans, white, all working people are fighting against this. There's a huge division in the Democratic Party regarding this type of nation that the bankers are going to defend in the main parties. Mandani has to break with that party, because that party is the party of war. It's the party of Biden. Biden said 40 years ago, if there was no Israel in the Middle East, we'll have to make one. And Netanyahu called it the carrier of the Middle East. Netanyahu is against the Israeli working people. The capitalist in Israel is against the Israeli working people and against the Palestinian people, and they are allies of the bankers and big owners in the United States and other empires. So basically, what we have in Puerto Rico right now is a few movements. Mothers Against the War, they're in the 125 picket line in front of the Israeli consulate, denouncing the genocide in Gaza. And in 1970 and 1971, we had demonstrations against the Vietnam War. The United States, there were millions of people against the Vietnam War, fighters. There was a pre-revolutionary movement in the United States against that slaughter of millions of people. Now the United States also is killing more than 170 school children, this MF. I mean, and they call it patriotism. In the name of Christ, in the name of Abraham. I mean, how can you be so gory, so against humanity, in the name of all religions? I mean, this is a total disgrace of what humanity means. And we are in the right side of it. All the people here are in the right. With Cuba, we're in the right side of it. With the working people of the United States, we're in the right side of it. Thousands of teachers right now are going to be in the street in the United States. The people are going to continue fighting against that. There's a book called, Would There Be a Revolution in the United States Before the Overthrow of the Government in Cuba? I think, yes, there'll be a revolution in the United States before that, because the Cuban people are strong and they have the support of everybody here. So, I'm looking here for my notes. Okay, so we come from a strong line of struggle, but we have to regain consciousness of the masses. We have to continue. We have to give continuity to this struggle, not just the third age, but second and first age. We have to go to the factory. We got to the university. We have to go to our places where we pray, because this is a struggle of humanity. So basically, in 1975, we got the Navy out of Culebra. 2003, we got the Marines out of Vieques, and one of the main fighters was Robert Rabin. His Jewish heritage. He's a brother. How many Jewish people here are brothers and sisters? And Lenin was Jewish. Trotsky was Jewish. I mean, how many of us have Jewish heritage? Jewish and Palestinian people, we're the same. We fight against the same monster, the bankers and big owners. The Netanyahus, the Biden, the Trump, the Jeff Bezos of the world. The Lakis in Puerto Rico, the Jennifer Gonzalez or Batia, the Popular Democratic Party. Right now we're fighting to support the Cuban Revolution. We're in Puerto Rico, we're collecting for medicine, food, and photovoltaic panels. The Cuban people have been an example in dealing with disasters in Matanzas, hurricane. They're helping other countries. During the Chernobyl in 1989, in the middle of the special period, they brought children, and for 20 years they took care of them. In starvation condition, the Cubans took care of children that nobody else took care of. Cuba is a beacon of hope. In spite of the blockade that caused so much pain and death, Cuba is not a failed state. Healthcare, education, culture are amongst the highest standard in the Americas and the world. Now, you compare the COVID crisis. In the United States, 1.2 million people died. In Cuba, 8,500. In the Bronx, where I used to be a healthcare provider, 2.5 million people, 8,500 dead. I would say the U.S. empire is a failed state for the working people. They fail in the working people. Both parties are failing the working people. And that's what we have to organize. Trade unions, the barrios, political organization, whatever. It's the duty of everybody here. Now, why Cuba is a threat? Not just to the United States, but every empire. Main goal of this government, of the people, is social distribution of the wealth. Instead of private appropriation of the immense social wealth, which is a product from the lands, from the hands and minds of millions. This is the root of the attempt to isolate Cuba. Military, economically, culturally, in the international arena led by U.S. rulers. Cuba is a beacon of hope that has to be known in the universities, in the factories, in the places where we pray, in the United States, in Puerto Rico, and elsewhere.
Thank you all for being so attentive and listening and taking in the words and the sentiments and remarks and history of all the people who have come to the stage during this particular session. We're going to close out the session at this time. Sarah and I, again, want to extend our deepest gratitude to you all you comrades, for coming out on this Saturday. Sarah has some remarks to make to end our session.
Yeah, I think we're going to hear a list of the workshops that are coming up as we take a short break. And I'm asked to just at every point to keep in mind for President Maduro and for Celia Flores the upcoming court date of March 26th. We want to be in front of the court en masse, in force. This is especially important as the U.S. has announced they're preparing their criminal prosecution charges against Cuban leaders. This is another fraud, and we want to show every possible support for President Maduro here, for Celia Flores, and that's March 26th. Put that in your calendar, please.
Thank you so much to Sarah and to T for chairing that plenary session. We are a little bit into our lunch break right now, so we just want to make a couple of quick announcements to make sure that we get you back after the lunch break. So our first set of workshops will be starting at 2:45, and that is going to be happening in 3 rooms just across the hallway. In room 201, we will have Defend Cuban Women's Model Healthcare and the U.S. Economic Blockade. That will feature some Cuban guest speakers as well as some speakers talking about a new campaign for neonatal health in Cuba. The second workshop or panel will be happening in room 203. That will be how to travel to Cuba in 2026, solidarity travel with different groups talking about their plans for travel to Cuba. And the other workshop and panel will be in room 205, and that will be on advocacy, which the last brother spoke about the idea that we need to appeal to elected officials, to unions, to religious institutions to be supporting Cuba at this time and how we can do that. So each of these workshops is focused on actions that you can take. Please come back at 2:45. There are restaurants nearby where you can get takeout food. Come back, bring your lunch back here. Make sure to check out the tables. And we have a second set of workshops happening starting at 4:10 p.m. We will have one workshop on humanitarian aid projects with Cuba and another focusing on the law, U.S. laws in Cuba, and how we can further support Cuba and challenge the criminal and illegal U.S. blockade on Cuba. So those informations are up on, you can take a quick photo there with your camera phone, so you've got that information. Those are all going to be in rooms across the hallway. We will have good signage for that, but please come back after lunch at 2:45. And then, can we go to the next slide? The next slide is for tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about the action plan for Cuba. We're going to be back here at CUNY from 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock. If you scan the QR code, you will get the draft action plan that we'll be discussing tomorrow. That's a chance for you to look that over and also think about discussing that action plan in your workshops today. Do you want to tell people about tonight?
Oh, tonight, yes. Just quickly, tonight we have a Saturday night rally. It's going to be at the CP. The address is, I believe, what is it here?
Ooh, I don't have
235 West 23rd. Thank you. Bombayo will be performing. So again, please. I'm sorry? 235 West 23rd Street. You got that? Between 7th and 8th. All right. Thank you. All right, so guys, come back. I know it's been a long day. I'm looking at everybody's face. Everybody's a little exhausted, but remember why we're here. So come back, guys. Take a break, and it's time for the work. Okay?
All right, everybody, yes, make sure you come back for these workshops and we continue our organizing together. Que viva Cuba! Abajo el bloqueo! We'll see you back at 2:45. Tonight is at